Okay, let's get set for our restorative bone therapy today. You're going to have a chair next to the wall with the seat facing away and a bolster straight plunked down in front of it. Okay, you want your bolster to be lengthwise so that you have the short end of the bolster near the chair. For those of us that are short, we'll just kind of see how this arrangement works. I usually try to keep it really close to I'll say the toes of the chair toes. And then a blanket's behind, very flat. Okay, so bring your legs up onto the chair. I think short, it will work great to have the bolster really close, so that's kind of what I know. But if you have a little more length to you, you might have it further back because your feet will push into the wall. So you might have to kind of do a little bit of a bolster, kind of bopping up and down, push it around until when you lower back, the bolster is going to be all the way up into your back so that your neck feels like I'm kind of holding tension. So I try to kind of get my shoulder blades to kind of hook to the top of the bolster, the short end. I like it when my brain can be on just that light lift of a blanket and my arms can kind of lift up and it feels like the bolster is kind of pushing a little bit into my blades. It's a neat feeling. Okay. Now take a sandbag, optional, of course. Okay, and place that either from heart to belly or across the ribs. Okay, this one kind of makes sense where it could be either one today. It doesn't have to be an assessment period. You might just plunk it on there. You might decide you want the sand across the thigh lids. Maybe that's just an area you need to kind of release that dent, the thigh dents, because it creases so much. That's just kind of how hips and thighs have to work. They have to crease. So where you feel the obvious respiratory pressure, and then let the elbows kind of fall out where it feels suitable for you in the moment. It might be you stretch open the chest and you like that kind of intensity with the breathing reservoir. You might like them low because it feels nice in the shoulders. So however the shoulders are playing out right now, it might be important that you find a place where they're feeling protected. You don't need to make them vulnerable because they will be pushing forward into your hands. You're going to excite those muscles in a little while. So find what's a good resolution for you. It's like shoulder conflict resolution here. Okay. Center the face so the eyes relax back. And however the situation is, see if you can feel your awareness in your bones and the settling focus of the breath. Just now inhaling, core moves with the breath, and exhale, feeling that core body have to actually move the sand a little bit. So when you lift and lower the threads in the center of the body, it kind of feels like it's more than just little threads, right? It's an impact on your breathing muscles. And if the sand is a little bit lower, that's okay. You're still creating that impact by being in a position supine, right? So that's a little more circulation intensity to have the bolster under you and lifting the ribs. So let's take about 4 more cycles of breath. Slow and deep. Now, if the arms are low, below the level of the heart, feel if there's parts of your back that relate to the shoulders. right? And the way that I relate with that is I move my shoulders, towards the ground space or the bolster. And that obviously moves the chest a bit, but it's pretty slight. But slight movements in the chest are kind of big respiratory responses inside. Okay, now let's bring the feet into cobbler's pose. So you might be okay with your sand continuing to be stable on your body. If it's just too much of a ruckus to have both of these poses together, the respiratory circulation and the feet together, knees out, slide the sand off. That's okay. But having both, right, might create a circulation kind of event, you could say, circulation events. We have those in yoga classes. But feeling if the feet are close. I don't necessarily find the feet touching is the best method when I have a chair, because the chair is really great. It's great for my circulation in my legs. If I can move my feet a little bit apart, maybe closer is better. I have to kind of feel how my knees respond. I'm constantly kind of noticing, unfortunately, right, it responds. And then finding ways to kind of alleviate, right, some of that, the stresses. When you're upside down, right, you have an inversion in the leg. It sometimes feels better on the knee, sometimes, some days not. So it's a different pulse in the circulation there, depending on if there's fluid retention or anything. So I try to feel the balls of the feet, right, the padding kind of touch together. I find that to be an interesting response towards my knees, which is good, because my adductors, these have to kind of wake up. So wake up adductors, push the feet a little bit together. Don't focus on pushing the knees down, right, because that could cause a bit of disruption in the knee too. So I just let the knees go whatever range they go. This is it. This is my range. It might change in time, it might not. Okay. The last one, we're going to shift our sand away, bring the knees in towards each other, and let's get our knees closer so they're about hips distance. And then we're going to push back so our neck goes a little farther down to the blanket. And now I slide my shoulder blades off the bolster. Then I've got to push down into the chair with the feet, lift up and do just a little bit of a lift, just the right amount to reach your hand under to the bolster, and then see if you can secretly slide it away off of your mat. Spine and hips down, grab a ball, or if you don't have a ball, you can use a block and place it between the knees and have the positioning so that the back relaxes. That might take you a little bit of kind of shifting the ribs side to side. Blanket could be this low, it could be higher, arms down by my hips, and then squeeze the ball and relax the grip. So we're simply squeezing and releasing the squeeze. That's it. So the ball between the knees, squeeze and release. Now feeling what the definition is, obviously you'll notice the legs, they tense up or they tone. Let's say we'll say tone, that sounds better than tense. Okay. Now feel when you push into that ball, okay, we're going to push down into our forearms or our two arms and keep pushing into it. It doesn't have to be 100%, it could be 40%, but you're going to lift your hips up and feel your arms down by the side so the shoulders don't have to really do very much now, but we're not trying to pull the shoulders towards the ears, and then lower back down. Keep doing that. And I want you to focus on when you're lifting and lowering, the arms are down. Now this is interesting because the shoulders, when you're standing around, you probably don't think your shoulders go up to your ears very much, but it's one direction or the other. But in this position, we can attend to trying to keep the arms kind of far down. So when you lift up your hips, continue alternating. You can relax the grip on the ball, just hold it between the knees. Feel how the shoulders are, right? They're down by the sides. They're not scrunching up to your ears. Okay, so let's keep it this way. I know it's tempting to go up and over with the arms, But let's keep it so the shoulders are down. Does that make sense? Shoulders down. Just like you were told, right? Keep your shoulders down, not towards your ears, that kind of thing. But now when we lower back down through the spine, you can kind of weave through the spine. I find that kind of fun to do. And then next time you relax the back muscles entirely, just swing the feet up towards the ceiling and noticing if you can push into the ball a little bit. I mean, you don't want to push so much it pops out, but push a little bit into the ball, flex the feet, and just get a feeling of the reaction here in your lower back, and move the legs a little bit back towards your chest, just a little. You don't have to go overhead, that's not our goal here. Okay, now feel the palms, your hands on the floor, palms pressing, and push up into your heels. And then start to lower the legs so they're semi-straight. They might be a little bending, but semi-straight. Lower the legs directionally towards the chair. Don't overdo it. Find your end range here. For me, I feel my tailbone, right? I can't quite lengthen my spine anymore. It starts to arch a bit. That's like my end range here, where I'm confident as much of my spine is down as I can make happen. Okay, now relax the feet and then bend the knees. Bring the knees in towards the chest. Okay, then take the ball out. All right, we're going to come on up. So that was a nice little beginning just to kind of get our spine refined. And we'll get back to some good stuff like that. But get a feel when you go a little side to side, rock side to side. And then we roll, arms bend, and then use the hands to help bring you around to the chair. So, well, obviously the chair is still there, but take the blanket and toss it over to the side and turn to your chair and use the hands to help you get up. Okay, so legs push back. Now, as I reach the feet as wide as my sticky mat, so it's as wide as I can go, I want you to push the floor, push the chair away. Well, I guess it's the floor too. And stretch out that back area. Okay, see if you can find as much peace in this position as you maybe did on your back. Maybe it's not quite as much, but kind of feel how the feet are touching. Scan the areas of the body that are your grounding positions, right? Hands and feet. Okay. Okay, now feel your hips move a little side to side. So that would mean I bend one knee at a time as I slant the hips side to side. You're really trying to feel where the span is in the armpit, chest, and the waist. Good. Okay, now when you find that centerpiece of position, centering position, I want you to lift your head and then move towards the chair, and you're going to bring your feet together behind you. Hopefully they feel like they're as far back as they could go. Hands on the seat, and I'm going to hold just the edges of the chair. I'm going to let my waist stretch forward and actually lift your head up, breathe. So you're moving through the balls of the feet, and then stretch the legs, and actually the back is where I feel a massive stretch too, my whole body. Okay, now if your step back is too far, you can always walk your feet farther forward for this. So alternate reaching and moving back. So this is kind of what we would have maybe played with when we were doing bridge flow a few moments ago. But now our arms have to stay kind of overhead, right? They can't stay stuck by my side to get this stretch. Yeah, if it's too strenuous, your feet can be closer to your chair. Okay, last one. If it's too strenuous, it's done anyhow, right? We're done with it. So as you step the right foot forward, I want you to feel that you're in a bend with that right knee and create a nice, healthy, dense focus on the support of the knee. So we're going to stretch the left foot back, use the chair. I almost wish I could kind of move the chair seat up a couple notches on this one. So I suppose you could put blocks on it, huh? Well, let's work with this. I haven't played with that for a while. So feel the right foot, toes towards the wall, parallel. And then I want you to let that back leg, the foot has to be kind of in this, it has momentum because your heel is a little up. Okay, so turn the back foot out a little bit so the left heel is on the floor. The right knee, though, has to be a little cautious. So when I come up to stand, well, you've already been standing on your feet, but when you come up with the waist, find a very respectful bend for your knee. So for some of us, I imagine you can point your knee closer to the chair. You can go farther, but for me, this is about where my knee is like just fine. There's no, my knee doesn't feel like it's getting scruffed up. It's just, it's as good as it could be. The front of the left hip is stretching open. My ribs turn towards the wall to the chair. And there's a wall on both sides, I'm sure, but towards your chair. And then navel, right? You're trying to get that to face towards the chair too. All right, bring the hands together, interlace your fingers, push the palms forwards. Take extra caution here on the bending project here with the knee. Just find the right amount of bend. Remember, not too much. Okay, you don't want to do too little, like you're pushing back. But I suppose if you had to go one direction, going back would be better than going too far forward. Okay, feel the amount of circulation now through the legs. And let's take a warrior two. So we'll turn left. So the left arm stretches back and then you can see almost all of me. But when you bend to that right knee, you want to get a feeling of pressing into both heels. Okay. Now let the arms span open, like you're moving your pinkies back, opening the chest. Keep that right knee so it reaches towards the chair. So if your right knee is kind of rolling in, you want to aim the knee towards the chair, not over the toes. Don't strain your knee, but you want to feel like this thigh is not turning in at all. Even the muscles on the inside are stretching. Great. Now lower the right hand to the chair seat. Left arm stretches up and over like you're doing a somersault, not a somersault, a cartwheel. Let's not do cartwheels today. And then pivot the back heel up. So you're working the ankle on the back leg. Pivot the back heel back to where it was and then back on up. Kind of stretch the ankle. Do it again. So you turn it out and then you lift the heel up. Now, if that's okay on your ankles, good stuff to do. Okay. So when you're getting ready for your next cartwheel, okay. Now step the left foot to the chair and then switch sides. Right foot steps back. Okay. First things is to just move the left knee to a good balance over the ankle and feel that right heel a little bit up. Push the foot back so the ball of the foot presses, the heel is lifting. Feel kind of that elasticity of your calf and your ankle. Okay, and then pivot the right foot, turn it out, and you can feel how that swivels in your hips. In fact, you can back up, rewind. It's interesting right hip kind of motion. Okay, press down to your left heel, and this time we'll come up right away. So we'll lift up, stay with the navel towards the chair first. In fact, let's put our hands on our hips. So our hips are, we're trying to, well, they're not going to levelize, let's be honest. They're not exactly level, but you're working on creating a little more symmetry in your torso and that right hip so, the hip so, stretches down in towards the heel. Okay, now this is a good one. So that right leg stretching back, just be aware of how that position can be helpful for a knee. So I try to get my inner lift, like my centerpiece of the body is going, clearly it wants to go downwards more, but I'm trying to work on heart lifting. And then I bend the left knee so it's a little closer to the chair, but it's comfortable for my knee joint. Some of you, this might not be comfortable, might be farther back. It's okay. And then turn right. So the left arm is towards the wall, right arm is back. really stabilize. This might be something you've seen so many times in advertising for yoga, I'm sure. But find where your middle span is in the torso, and then really feel how that left knee moves forward towards the chair. Core sense, breathe. Good. Feel how that inside of the back thigh, you really are working on tone on the inside back leg to support the knee. Okay, so you want to make sure the left knee also is aiming towards closer towards the chair versus turning to the right. Okay, keep that stability in the hip joints. Breathe. It only helps. Okay, now as you stretch the left hand down for your cartwheel, right arm stretches over and down to the chair. This time we'll simply turn the back foot, heel is up, and let's just step it in about halfway, and then we'll turn and take a seat on a chair. Okay, get a ball. Maybe you should get the ball before you sit down, but it's all good. Place it between the knees again, and reach the hands back to the seat of the chair so that you can kind of branch the chest open again. So we started with the back support of the bolster, chest open. We came to standing. We did some positions that may have made the chest fall down a little bit. So we're coming back around to open up the chest. Okay. So I'm going to scoot my feet a little forward and just kind of play a little bit with the core reaction, right? At my lower core. So kind of feel, if you need your feet right under the knees, notice the differences in how the legs work. So it's one or the other for you. Not one is better than the other. Okay. Squeeze the ball again. Okay, and relax the grip. And now when you're squeezing the ball, find that there is a kind of this secret inner lift, right? It's not going to be very obvious. We're not going to hold our breath and lift our chest and tighten. It's just simply maybe visualizing that inner lift. Yeah, that's a whole school of teaching, right? Just visualizing the poses, not even doing them. Okay, or not feeling physicality doing them, but I'm visualizing them. Okay, so that inner lift. And that might mean that if you kind of push your ribs forward, you've got to center them back a bit, and kind of take away that pressure in the organs. Okay, so let's let our hands still stay back to the chair seat. So I scoot my hands under. If this doesn't work for your kind of chair, it might be your hands are on the sides, kind of on the legs. But as long as this gives some kind of resurrection here for this chest area, it's kind of full openness. Okay, tilt your left ear to the left shoulder, because I don't think you could tilt it to the other shoulder right now. And so obviously I'm going to relax the grip on the ball and just kind of let it be held there, just mild. Feel the right side of the neck, just stay with it for a moment. Feel the neck stretch. Centering, and then tilt the right ear to the right shoulder. Come back in center, hands release, arms by the sides, roll the shoulders back and down. Take a few of these motions, and if it's kind of a slight circulation or maybe even sound, right, you might have some noticeable sounds. And it could be shoulder parts, it could be connection of shoulders to back parts. Okay, now as we reach the hands forward, okay, just straight in front, let's get a feeling of where the hips are. So what you might do is when you're in a chair, usually we kind of round, you know, especially in a car seat, you know, that we can't quite get that lift. It's almost just doesn't work in those seats. Well, it depends on your car. Okay, so when you're feeling that motion, I want you to try to work on creating this stretch in the side of the waist down into the bones. Okay, so instead of trying to round my back, I'm trying to get this little bit of lift. Okay, now bring the arms towards the right and bring the left hand to the side of the right leg, right hand back to the chair seat. Push into the ball with the leg muscles and then create that rib rotation. I hesitate to say the word twist too, obviously, because I want you to find that there's some inner rotation without trying to like pull the belly in as tight as you can. Let the abdominal area release a bit so that you can strengthen the diaphragm. Right? It's not so much about, okay, I'm going to look a certain way. It's about what can I strengthen in my breathing muscles. You come away a little better with that approach. Okay. Because you're toning the diaphragm. So when I turn, I like to sometimes hold the arm of the chair a little bit, like I kind of grasp a hold it. You have to be a little careful holding the back of it depending on your height. This would make my shoulder push in. So I just kind of push and then rotate, still squeezing the ball. Okay, now coming back center, shoulders rolling, scrolling. Shrug and roll, shroll. Okay. Hope that's not too loud. Okay, squeeze the ball, turn left, hand to the side of the left leg. And then as you turn, again, you could bring your hand to the seat of the chair. That's a pretty responsible way to go. You could have your hand kind of holding the arm. And if you hold the arm of it, you would probably want that webbing between the thumb and the index to kind of hook into the little chair part, because you know these yoga chairs, they're kind of small parts. And it's not like a big wide chair, right? For some of us might have a different chair. But when you turn, try to get a feeling of just centered, not trying to just jut your chest forward, but keep it in the middle, rotate. Push into that ball. Okay, you don't want one knee going farther forward than the other. Right? So you're trying to work on alignment. Okay, now when you come back center, okay, we'll move the ball aside and we'll take the feet into a wide stance. Okay, so keep the chair where you got it. All right, but I want you to step wide in the chair, but you're still sitting in it. Have a wide step, and you're going to lean the left elbow to the left thigh. I don't think I'll be mirroring you, right? So I'll be doing same side as you, so it could look opposite. But left elbow's on the left thigh, right hand reaches to the back of the chair. Now, if your chair is budged up against the wall, take a moment and push it a little bit away and then come back so your fingers don't get smushed. But feel that twist in the torso. Yeah, now you can really justify leaning into the elbow a bit, the left arm. You feel how that right shoulder moves a little bit back, breathe. And then switch, so right elbow is down, left hand reaches to the back of the chair and turn. Okay, one side, the muscles might feel different tension. It might be the organs, it might be digestive tension too. So clearly you'll be working with a basic gesture of turning. Okay, so the weight is a little deeper on the right seat. Okay, so you'll lean from that right side, then you'll come up, left hand on left leg, both hands touching their respective legs, and then simply make circles. So my hands are above the knees and I'm circulating, and I want to get a feeling of movement kind of casually. Yeah, you might find this is kind of enjoyable, but you've got to find a way to let your eyes relax and just feel a little bit of this movement. When you lean back, you can kind of evoke a little lift of the chest and then circulate and then go the other direction. Okay, now the shoulders can go along with it. They don't have to be particularly pushed back because they kind of roll with the motion, but circulate both directions. Great. Yeah, the feet turned out a little bit is helpful for the direction of the thighs, obviously. Okay. All right, now last one, we're going to center, and what you'll do is you'll place the right foot up to that left knee and lean forward. Okay, I want you to try this with or without your bolster. Okay, if your chair, you push it a little bit away from the wall, you might bring it back to the wall for what's coming up, but not that essential. But now as I have my right foot to the left, my right ankle to the left knee, I'm going to shift it. So I like to use the bolster. Do I like to use the bolster on this one? I think so. I don't want to round the back more. So if I have this support, it basically helps my arm pressure and then it responds into my ribs when I push. Otherwise, I'm kind of rounding into the position. Although you could do this holding the seat of the chair and lean, but that could cause strain. Strain happens. So feel when you're leaning forward, if you push on the inside of the left foot, I want you to try to make sure that bottom foot is well centered. Follow the foot straight back to the heel. And lean into it. Breathing. Flex the right foot to protect the knee. So flexion is a little bit of protection for the knee joint. Even if it doesn't hurt your knee, to do no flexion, best to protect. So when you're leaning forward and you kind of feel that inner gunk, right, of the groin stretching, and you might feel like there's some stuck stuff. Okay, now come back, switch sides. Maybe before you get the other foot up, you might just lean forward and back, kind of like when you do cat-cow, right? When you arch and you round. You can do a little bit. It doesn't have to be a deep rounding. It could just be a movement passage through your upper back and your mid-spine. But just kind of shifting it, move your ribs, and then when you prepare for that the second left ankle, maybe it's only one left ankle you have, but the next side, left foot crosses, so the left ankle, and one side you might notice, oh, this ankle touches a little differently. Maybe you tend to have your foot onto the leg. That's okay. It doesn't have to be ankle. So if I have my foot, it's a little more work, but it feels a little better on my knee on this side. So I'm going to keep this foot flexed, the left foot. And when I lean forward, it's going to feel like a little workout the whole time. It's not passive. But you can sneak in a way to be kind of calm in it. You can take deep breaths. Working deeply, but breathing confidently. This is the only time of day you have to do that. Breathe confidently, huh? Yeah, and if your knees kind of go side to side and you're shifting, feel a stillness. You want to move into stillness. And then keep that movement of breath. Great. Okay, now give it a few more moments, maybe a couple breaths. And feel that work that is in your leg part. So this can be when you're sitting in a chair, the density in the legs is kind of interesting. But we're going to come right out of the chair in a moment. We're not going to just leap out, but we're going to carefully construct our movement. So when you shift back up, your foot might be all flexed up, but when you step it down, it kind of stays that way anyhow. So let the bolster just drop down between the feet. Yeah, this can be sometimes interesting to just keep that upper, heart span lifting, because that lift of the space behind the heart, it's the spine. That's what's right behind it. There's not much other material in there. There's a lot of space with the heart. It's taken up. So getting it to lift can be a challenge, with our posture. Okay. So now when you move to the floor, the knees, I have to be a little careful, right? I don't want to just push my feet back and hurt my knees out. So I want to lean forward, and I've got the chair to kind of help me get out. So I'm going to go forward and kind of stretch my hands front and walk my feet back. And then you're going to lower down and just use the bolster. And if your bolster's kind of in a funny spot, let it stay in a funny spot, because I just want you to kind of get onto that surfboard there and keep that arch in the spine. No knees on the ground. If you can possibly have your knees up, do it. If it feels like you're trying to get a little bit smaller and smaller on the bolster, that's what you're trying to do here. Okay, you're not going to shrink all of a sudden, but feel where there's arch, feel where there's spine. I don't know if you feel like there's spine. And then if you can lower down a little bit, I want you to shift your elbow focus by your sides. Okay, now we're going to come back. Okay, this is a different thing we're going to do. We're going to push our bolster forward. We're going to use our blocks under our shoulders. If you need a blanket under your knees, get one under your knees. Okay, and we've done this years back. We used to do this in bone class, but you put your block so it's under each of the, you can kind of feel where the shoulder head kind of rolls in. So I want you to put the blocks on your mat. I'm going to start low because I just kind of got back into doing this, but it's good. When I see people do this when they're warming up, I realize, oh, I'm missing out on that one. So I'm going to lower down and I'm going to place my blocks so that they're basically only place they could be to keep my shoulders from rolling, right? And then I'm going to stretch back. Now I'm going to get my bolster so it's under my forehead. You might notice, this is pinching my armpits. That might be obvious. So you could put your block a little bit higher. Okay. I find that they're both pretty good, and I like it a little bit higher. So if you're not so sure, you got your block. We'll just show one side, kneeling, but it's really at the armpit chest. So if I have it flat, it kind of bugs my pecs a little bit. This is kind of sensitive tissue. So if I push it there, then it's working on shoulder back and then stretching out into this very lymphy area. There's a lot of lymph nodes in there. So it's reasonable. You might feel a little bit of kind of rawness with it, but it shouldn't feel like such a nagginess that you've got to get out unless you got some swollen stuff there. If you do, don't do it. Okay, because we want to try to regulate the circulation there. My arms are down by my sides, palms are open. Palms could be touching my thighs. My hands could be on my back of my legs, but that hurts my shoulder personally because it pushes it down. It's so subtle what works. Right? It's just let the shoulders touch onto the blocks. Don't do too much. Forehead is on the bolster. Okay, you can keep working with kind of guiding your shoulders down. Just a little subtle work. And then what's best is to just let them be on the blocks. Let the legs span a little bit apart so they're not any farther than the chair legs. If you like them a little closer, try it out. Just kind of feel, maybe wag your hips a little side to side. And then feel the belly push into the floor with the breath. Massage the digestive tract. Okay, feel the natural arch of the spine. This is a great one. This is a good homework one, I think, for most of us in our shoulders, right? So get a feel of how this kind of, it pushes a little bit into the armpit area. There's a little lymph kind of circulation in this that's getting into a workout. So before we come up and work that out, be sure that your knees are very comfortable. So I like to just lift one leg up, use that right side of my back, stretch that leg back, then the other leg, and just reaching. I don't do this as quite as good as my cat does, but they do this really well. They'll just take one of their legs and pull it back. And the other leg. Okay, now finally let the toes hook under. Okay, feel if the toes are under, how much separation you feel best with your feet. Maybe you don't want them very close. Maybe they're far apart, but then lift the kneecaps up. Then lower the knees gently. Feel where you do push into the legs. So can you do a little bit more in the above the knees when you push down? Your glutes will respond. They're going to grip up a bit here responsively. They want to help you out. And then you're going to carefully slide out those blocks. We want them forward. Okay. And then let's make our way. Actually, let's put them on the inside of the mat. Let's bring our hands back so that you kind of feel like you're in a little bit of a grasshopper position. Yeah, the shoulders are going to just dump, right? They like to dump. So as I lengthen my torso and I take some caution, I'm going to step the right foot forward. I'm going to take my time to get there. Get a hold of my blocks, pull them in, be low on my lunge. So my knee could be on the blanket or ground, or it could be up. It's up to you. It's up to you. So push the heel back, the left heel. Stretch. This should feel like a bit of a workout just to be in a low lunge. Knee is above the ankle, so don't let the right knee go forward of the toes. Okay. All right, let's step the left foot and come up and move the hips forward. So you're going to carefully crack lifting and then moving your hips forward so your thighs feel like they push together inwards, lifting up the chest. Hands can smooth around to the back of the pelvis. Feeling the ribs lifting. Breathe. Press the feet down. Okay. Arms are going to reach back, and then you're going to do more of a jet airplane movement. So you're going to stretch the chest forwards, arms back. Okay. And then hands onto the blocks. Move them at the highest setting forward. Take the feet a little bit wider so they're a healthy hips distance. And then feeling this forward bend to strengthen the spine. So you have a natural arch in your back. Definitely natural arch. Not a rounded back, reaching back. Now, if you have to round your back to do this, then please put your hands above the knees, and then you can create that natural reach. For some of us, it's just too far down. The blocks just aren't high enough. And you'll notice when you do your chair stuff that the chair seat is a pretty good height. But I haven't seen any yoga blocks that high. Okay. All right, now bend through the leg. So get a feel that there's only so much, kind of hip span that we have from our waist to our hips. So just do a little light nudging, bending, kind of lengthening. And then as you bring the knees to a little bend, walk the blocks on back. And I want you to bring your feet closer together. And then step the right foot back and take that lunge. Oh, it feels so much better when my leg is higher. So a little lower of a lunge is a little more work, but we'll get a higher lunge in a moment on the chair. But let's take the advantage of being low on blocks. That sounds funny, being low on blocks. Take advantage of being low on a block. And they're still the highest setting. So the right hip stretches back through the heel. You can get a feel of that reach, and you can feel the left knee motioning just above the ankle. Yeah, should feel like a muscular engagement just the right amount the whole time. You've got to kind of react in your alignment. Breathing. If your back knee is, you want to lower it to the floor, that's okay. But, it does put some sheer pull around the knee, different parts of the joint. So having a little lift might be more empowering for just your structure and your hip. Again, it's not about like flexibility, it's about stability. Okay, now take a moment where you feel where that movement is in the legs. There's a bit of a step, and bend the right knee a bit more. Now turn the back foot so the toes turn right, and you're going to turn the left foot toes in and take blocks to the right. So take a wide stance. Use your block height. Yeah, even if you can touch the ground and you're feeling really mobile, use a little height, even if you need to put the blocks down because you're pretty tall and that's just making you push back too much. You can take the blocks as low as you want, but feel where there's a wide stance, toes in, heels out, a nice arch through the spine. If you can be with this and feel the response of your breath in the ribs. Probably the part of your breathing that's responding is the closest attachment to this low back waistline, the QL. So you can kind of feel the back circulation in the intercostals. So it's okay to kind of let that dominate your focus, like feel the presence of kind of width in your back because the feet are wide. Okay, you don't get this very often. So scoot the feet a little closer. So it's just adaptable for our muscles. Makes you work a little more though. Okay. And then you're going to bend through the legs a little bit more, lean back to your heels. Okay. Now, I think you could leave your blocks here conceivably. I shouldn't because you won't see as well, but you could just leave them there. And then take your right hand on the chair seat and turn. Let's see if you can. Let's just see what happens if you leave them there. It's tempting to move them around. So feel the bend of the right knee. Woo! And then let that left leg, the calf stretch. I can feel my calf stretch quite a bit. Yeah, you might not like me putting these in the way, huh? Okay, so feel the back heel stretching down. And let's work with the lunge of that right leg. We did this earlier. It sort of looks like we're just backed up in the class again. We're rewinding, but oh no, it won't be that way. So I want you to stretch out that right leg like you're extending the leg muscle itself, and the back heel is stretching down. So you have two different tracks your legs are in, but the back heel is trying to lower down. Okay. Okay, now feel where there's extension, right? There's a reach. Okay, bend the right knee, slide the right foot back so you can see it underneath you. It's not hiding under the chair seat anymore. There's no more foot hiding. And then you're going to lift up the back heel, and I want you to try to work with straightening up the right leg to lift the left foot up. Okay, kind of play with it. So bending, lengthening, the left leg comes up, turn the hip open so that this is an option to move further. Left foot turns out into half moon pose, and the left arm stretches up. Yeah, if you're kind of losing a little bit here, then it's pretty simple. You could put your left hand back down, turn the foot to face back down again, foot goes down, and you just kind of try it again. I think rewinding and just kind of feeling how I get the experience of muscular control and how it definitely goes out of control too. Naturally, right? The flexibility wanes in a balance. Oh, don't say that. Okay. Now reach the left hand towards the wall. You've got a wall, so that's very nice for this one. The left foot might be able to reach farther away from your center of gravity, but it's challenged, right? So push your feet, really both of them, away from the center. Careful of the right knee. We don't want the knee turning in at all. This probably is your most important feature, is the knee here. Keep the focus of lifting. Great. And then lower down the left hand, turn the hips back to center, step the left foot back and the right foot. Make sure your hands are holding onto the chair well. And then lean forward into chair, upward facing dog. Lift the chest. And then shift the hips. So the thighs pushing together isn't so helpful here. I'm going to step the left foot forward. And I'm going to go ahead and step it under the chair. That sounds funny, doesn't it? Step the foot under the chair, like as if you're sticking your foot to your chair somehow. Right heel is going to be reaching, so you stretch your calf. So you decide. If your wrists are hurting, you can put your elbows on the chair. It will make it more intense, but it might feel a whole lot better on your wrist. Sometimes that's worth it. And if you want to have your hand still on, but it hurts your wrist, you can make a fist. So it's a little more muscular than driven into the joints. That took me a while to really figure in my bones, but that is really true. If you make a fist, it's going to be more muscular response above it. So you can try that too. It might really feel helpful. So the leg length. Okay, now just think of a balance. It's this position, so to speak, but your left foot has to be under your hip. Okay, so step the left foot underneath the hip so you can see through, hopefully not through your foot, but to your foot. And then you can put your palms down, you can lift your right leg up, feel that center of gravity or the challenge of it, or maybe feeling no center of gravity. And then turn that right thigh open so the right foot turns out and that left inner thigh, it's almost as if there's a lot of pull here, right, in this dimension of the leg. So you just work with it. If you want to put your hand on the wall right away and try to work with that turning, you know, the worst of it might be you lose your balance and you just kind of fumble out and try it again. But keep the consideration of this knee, this left knee. So if it feels like it's kind of sliding under you, like there's almost a, it's almost like a wheel starting to slide under you, then of course, get your center of gravity, come back in, but it's not how you look, right? It's how it feels like it's a balancing pose. Good grief, right? Is there such a thing? So lift up that right leg, feel the left knee a little bending. Okay, now turn so the right hand lowers back down and take a shift so the right foot is back, the left foot steps back, and you lean forward and stretch the torso up. Okay, now carefully we're going to shift down to the shins, although it's the knees, isn't it? And take your chair behind you, push it way back there, take a seat and a blanket. Okay, all right, we're made it to the floor without the chair for the moment. So let's take our seat so that we put our blanket. I kind of don't mind, this is a tricky balancing with the props, huh? So sit back on the blanket. That could be in a single fold or a quarter fold. If you have it a little bit higher, like if you have this high, it'll be easier posing. If it's lower, it might be more challenging, but it just depends. Let's just see what happens. Okay, get close to the wall with your feet. First things first, just feel a little softness of the knees so they're not pushing down. They're little slight bend. And you want them to bend evenly. So that could be tricky. So you might just lightly touch the kneecaps, kind of feel the circulation in there, and then push into your wall, and then feel how the back responds. So we're trying to get a lift. If you're kind of achy, like it's hard to sit up, I want you to feel the knees bend a little bit more and feel a little bit more reach of the ribs forwards. Okay. So let's try this. We're going to take a block. So they're both going to be behind you. Now we're all different heights. And so Some of you, the block will be necessary, and then there's some of us that our arms are long enough, we don't need it, okay? So for me, it's helpful because I can't quite touch the floor without a little rounding. So I'm gonna put my hands on the blocks just to stretch my hands the other way as well. They've been this way for a while. So I'm just gonna turn them back. And hands could be floor, they could be on blocks. But I want you to get a feeling here of the bend of both legs. Okay, and then push the right foot deeper into the wall. I hope it doesn't make a dent, but push the right foot into the wall. Lighten up the less gas on the left, right? So push into that right. Okay, now you're gonna reach the chest open. Now slide the left foot in. Now if you're using this hip flexor more than anything, I want you to slide the left foot in and then just see if you can get that lift of the chest. Okay, use the right hand to cross to the left leg and then help it over, help the left leg cross over the right leg. And then keep that lift. So the left foot, the toes might not be straight forward anymore. They might be a little turned in, and that's okay. Because it's part of the form of the movement of the tibia and the fibula. It's just gonna move that way. You can't jinx it, okay. So turn to the left, bring your right arm to the side. Now maybe no block for some of us. I'm gonna put my hands on the floor and that works fine. I suppose if your chair was right there, you could use the hat, but then it would push you away. So create that pressure with the elbow to that left leg and then keep that inner momentum of breathing. This is a nice place to have some relationship with your breath when you're twisting. And just notice what the breath is like when you're twisting. Stay connected to in and out breath. And stay connected to that when you unwind and you simply sit forward, hands interlaced under that left knee and breathe. It should feel a little easier here than in the twist. Okay, now take the left foot forward to the wall, lift up, hands back, slide the right foot in. Okay, now use the left hand to cross it over to the other side of the left leg. Lift up the chest. Now connect to your breathing pattern, the pace of the breath. And see if you can sneak the twist to the right. Right hand comes back maybe to the floor of the block and hook the left arm to the side of the right leg. Breathe slow. Doesn't mean that you don't breathe deeply, right? Because slow kind of helps you go with a focus of deep breath. You know, if you're really negotiating that pressure with the feet, see if you can work on that inner lift. Yeah, I get stuck with, I use the wall as a great prop for this one, but sometimes I'll get stuck with the pushing of the foot. And then it doesn't help me get up with the spine, but it should. So engage into that foot and then use that as a support post to help you lift up. And then feel where there's maybe a very mild twist. It doesn't need to be completely to the direction behind you. Or maybe for some of you, you like that. You keep turning. Some of us use the block. We like how that works in our torso. Maybe you're trying to get something to move along in your digestive tract and you just really want to keep that thoracic mobility for the moment. You can play with that. But be kind to that stimulation of the breath. Respond to it. Okay, now when you come out, turning back forwards, hold on to that right leg and then lift up gently with the chest. Okay, now uncross, and let's take our seat in front of the blanket back, hold the backs of the legs with both hands, of course, and maybe bring the feet up to the wall so you get a little bit of this mid-body support and balance, and you're gonna lean back and see if you can get the legs to lift. I don't think they're gonna necessarily go straight up over your head, but you're working on that leg muscular response into the hands holding them. And there's probably some challenge right between the two. They're trying to help your center body strengthen. Your breath probably gets a little shorter, right? Your in breath is a little quicker. Okay, so bend through the legs, a breath for different times of the class, huh? And find where the knees are comfy with this. So I lean back, lift the chest. I'll pretend I can do that. Lift the chest, the heart. Okay, and then let's add this on when we come down to our bolster. So we'll lower the feet. Okay, and let's turn to get our bolster. Maybe it's in front of you, maybe it's not, but what you'll need is, I don't think you need the blocks. Yeah, you can put those away. Okay, so have a bolster next to your ribs, pull it in. Let's set it up. So we got bolster, 2 blankets, a chair across the back. Yeah, okay, this is simple. Your sand will be helpful too. Don't get too close to the wall, I suppose. I don't want you to push into your knees that much here. So we'll start, and this is that core focus. I'm going to get a ball and a sandbag, ball inside the right leg, sand to my left side so I can gain some strength and put it on. And then let's take side cinch. So your left rib cage is on the bolster. Your sand goes up to the side. Now we're kind of on the cool down part, really. And when you lean down, yeah, let yourself kind of figure out in the moment today, not what you remember doing with this pose, but if you're on the side of your head or on the back, either is fine. But feel where there's a reach with that right arm, and the palm could be down. I don't think you have to use your chair, but maybe you don't like to use the chair at all and you prefer the arm on your side. Or maybe you like it kind of overhead towards the floor. I don't find that helpful. My shoulder, my bicep tendon, I just don't find it helpful at all to push my hand down. It tends to bring a little pinch. So kind of read your body here, kind of feel what is a good response for you. So not for anyone else in the class, but for you. And it might be that you don't do this pose, maybe you do something else completely. That's okay. So resting the eyes, unless you're walking around, probably don't rest your eyes. And feel where there's movement of the breath. If you have sand on the ribs, you'll feel the breath there. If the sand is on the hip, you feel the movement of the ribs. Okay, use your props. So if you've got that, yeah, if you get that sand onto the hip, and that's a good weight bearing, right? So the sand is on the hip. Feel the alternating side breath. Yeah, and if your left waist feels kind of pinched, if I kind of roll in the back of my head, I do feel that it responds in my waist as well. So I've got to find different motions. Maybe the left arm between the props kind of pushes a little bit into the bolster, but the arm is on the floor. It's not holding the bolster. And then let your head, literally let your brain rest. Okay, now we're going to take this shift from to the next side. So you might go, okay, well, maybe you roll on your back. Maybe you go to hands and knees and switch. And you'll get a feeling when your sand slides off that the ribs only go so far, right, with the hips to the back. So it's not like you can just kind of flip over like a cat. It just doesn't quite work the same with our spine connection. So you don't really truly have a tail, huh? So when you come around, if you only had one, you could flip around. So when you come around to switch, you will rotate. I'll have to study my cat moving on her back. She's the one who does that often. Okay, so give me some tips. Okay, so taking it to the next side. So you're going to lean to your right hip, however you need to get there. It's just fine. Okay. Left knee is turning inwards and sand up to that left hip. Yeah, you're already on the bolster, so you don't have to get too worried. Now, the bolster might be kind of shifting its support. So you do find that how the waist stretches down. It's like you want to feel like it's kind of peeling open, like there is a bit of a rib peel. It's working. So at first it feels like it's some interesting pressure, but then after you're in it, it feels like, okay, I can do that. So just lying on the bolster on the side is a bit of a respiratory, the lateral sheath of the body gets that pulley system. So when that left arm goes overhead, this is clearly an option, not for everyone. Not everyone's going to feel this is helpful. Some might feel it's the last thing that they want to do with the arm. It might be on the side or near the bolster. But the weight of your head is probably your most important part. It's just to let it go. I know it's tempting just to look, like when your eyes move around, it probably holds your neck up, tightens your neck. So relax your eyes. Once you get established in it, give yourself some time. Now, if you feel you need your blanket a little bit higher, right, you could do that. If you're not using the chair, that might happen where you need a little more lift. Just moving the arm back is going to put some tone in that side of the shoulder, just a little tone so you don't feel like you need your blanket as high. You know, with that left side of the waist elongating, we're going to stretch from that left side down into the hip. Let's see if we can, smoothly get there. So you'll let the sand, it could just kind of be pushed off the side. Casual, choreographically. Okay, roll right. Push to come up in your hands. Push the bolster to the right side of your mat. Turn so you're on your back. And lower down. So your head is on, I think one blanket will be fine on that one. 1/4 fold. And now we keep going with that left side. So we cross the left leg towards the bolster. The moment ago, the leg was swinging back. Now it crosses over. Be careful with trying to swing it back. That doesn't feel too healthy. So we want to let it cross over to the bolster on the right side of your mat. And then you'll add your sand onto the left hip and kind of set the sand so it could be kind of in limbo where it feels like it could move, but it's kind of a nice circulation for your thigh muscles. You know, closer to the knee for me feels the most protective actually for my knee. If it's closer to my hip, it tends to kind of nag my knee a little tiny bit. So left arm is open, chest is in that circulation dynamic right now. And then you can roll your head to the left. Give it, really get that feel of how does the armpit and the shoulder feel, right? So if it's tingly in the arm, let your arm lower down, but still be positive about your rib movement with your breath. You know, some days it just might be different. It might be more shallow. This is usually never a tingly arm position for me, but it's a tiny bit. So I'm just going to be gentle with myself and let the elbow bend a bit, and then that kind of goes away. But still keep that rib movement expansive. Yeah, doing that inner care research is a daily habit. It's a daily change. Some days you don't even notice things, right? And some days, oh, something's just a little different. So you're the only one, right, that can really do that inner environmental study for yourself. Okay, now let the left arm slide down, move the ball, and let's just switch to the second side. We'll do a little of these hip crossovers before we go upside down for our last pose. So when you get that crossover, really feel how this mid body casually gets into the shape. And then you decide how much twisty you get, right? So if your left leg below is bending quite a bit, it might feel like you can actually get that ball to the sacrum area. You can get that rotation nicely on the ribs. You know, supine, twists are great, because our spine starts with some extension in them when we take the leg over. So these are just really good. The seated twists are, I don't know, they're a little challenging to really feel that spine lift. So just be honest with what helps you the most and practice that. You can still be a pro. Okay, so feel where your head rolls to the right, feel where the chest is in motion. If you need a blanket under your arm, you could try these things. I mean, I've seen these practices where there's padding under the arm, where there's definitely no padding under the arm. If there happens to be a pad there, use it. Except a writing pad. Okay, and let your spine feel where there's just the right amount of rotation to nudge the hip response. So with that breath deeply in the centerpiece, so just not letting the breath get really high up in the chest. And it's really interesting here, right before we get our legs up, how that happens in your breathing, because once you get the legs up, sometimes we do start chest breathing. So still stay with the abdominal motion with the breath. If you can keep that in attendance, let your head roll back into center. And if you want to stay with this twist longer, you can. You don't have to come out right now, but if you're feeling like that's enough of a twist, slide the ball away And you can roll to the left and you can slide the sand off, it'll come off. And as you move your bolster up to the wall, and if you're not going to do the Viparita Karani, which is legs up the wall, you might do chair shoulder stand. I'm going to show legs up the wall. If you decide you need to do something a little more inverted, you could. Have a blanket nearby, extra, and one under your head, and a sandbag. If you have an eye pillow, grab that too. Okay, shift your hips to the wall, and then moving your sitting bones towards the wall. They don't have to necessarily make an imprint. And then you'll bring the left arm or right arm under between, and then let the legs lift up. They kind of have to swing up on this one. Add sand. And then feeling, once that sand is on your feet, the circulation for your breath. Okay, hopefully you can still stay with it in the core versus the chest. I know this is, again, that one where it's obvious that everything's going to push to reverse the flow of gravity to the heart, the lungs, and the brain. So that's the inversion effect, but we want to keep the breath in this abdominal area. So when you're moving that breathing apparatus, the diaphragm, it's moving down towards the belly organs, and it has resistance, right? So that you're working on that massage into the organs. Otherwise, you're just tightening your chest more if it flows really high up. So you've got to find almost that isolation. So it is kind of advanced work, right? The gentle is pretty advanced, gentle work with breathing. Yeah, so feeling where the sensation is of the movement of the breath. And relaxing the eyes and the brain. And just feel where there's a pure awareness in the hips. Let them rest into the bolster. And that spread from the hips out to the side of the pelvis, which is hips, really, the side band. And then feel how the legs kind of insert themselves into those hips right now, since they're upside down. It's kind of a neat reset in some ways for our femur. Just having the legs in this position, we're not creating all those postural habits like we do when we walk or we just stand. It's that postural habit, just standing. But right now we have even balance with the sand across both feet. And just feeling the perspective of the pelvis. Now soften the knees, shift the feet from the wall. And then as you bend the legs, you might feel a little bit of space at the knees, maybe not. Sometimes bending them causes some response, but just take a moment where you still feel the sand on the feet unless it's already dropped, and how that can be strengthening for the knees. Being upside down, sand on the feet, just a little bit of a bend. It's going to put some form and some strength around them. So that's a good place to just be for a moment. Bending. You can toss your sand overhead, or you can reach for it and slide it away. If you've got a blanket on your torso, it's a nice massage into the digestive tract, just to hold the back of the legs and kind of feel that little bit of pressure. And then swing the knees to the side. You could use your arms close to your legs. You could stretch them away. There's kind of no rhyme or reason how to get up. For some days, you just get up easier than others, I think. Okay. Take a seat and feel the form of the body now in a seated perspective. And hands reach up and balance the palms in presence of your heart. Immerse yourself in a moment to breathe in wellness to yourself from practice, and also to each of us in this session, and breathing in together. And exhale, bowing into the space behind your heart. Namaste.